Okay, loud and clear, right? Yes? So I wanted to continue with Prahlada Maharaj, with our discussions on Prahlada Maharaj, because there's so much we haven't discussed yet. And so that's what we're going to do. Welcome to everyone. Hope you had a great Nrsimha Chaturdasi. It's quite a special day where his Shakti is represented in the whole atmosphere, and a great day for meditating on him. So, why don't I get the harmonium, the broken old harmonium? Just give me a second. Radha Madhava Ki Jai. Shri Radha Madhava. Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Giribharadhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Giribharadhari. Yashodhanandana Raja Jana Ranjana Kishoranandana Raja Jana Ranjana Jamunatira Vanachari Jamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Maharaja Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giribharadhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Giribharadhari. Yashodhanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodhanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamunatira Vanachari Jamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Sri Radha Madhava Ki Jai. Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So first I want to speak a little bit about the protection of Prahlada Maharaj. What was happening to Prahlada Maharaj is very important. It's exactly like the story of Thakur Haridas. When Thakur Haridas was being beaten, he should have been killed in the first or second marketplace, but they went, I believe, to 21 marketplaces, and still he wouldn't die. And the government servants who were ordered to kill him asked him, could you die? Because if you don't die, we will die. So Takharida said, okay. So actually, he just went into samadhi, but he appeared to be dead, so they were satisfied. Later on, he met Mahaprabhu, and Mahaprabhu showed him his back, and Mahaprabhu had these marks on his back. And he said, when you were being beaten, I was taking the beating. That's why you weren't affected by it. So something similar was happening, not explained this way, but we can kind of conjecture that that is what happened. If you remember the story, Prahlada Maharaj was being killed in different ways. They were using different ways because none of those ways were working. So when one way didn't work, they would try another way. That way didn't work, they would try another way. So he was being trident, spears, being attacked with spears, but there were no marks on his body. The spears couldn't enter, they couldn't do anything. When he was attacked by elephants, the elephants came to him, but they would stop before they'd come to him. They couldn't actually come and trample on it. That's how it's explained. I always thought he was trampled upon and somehow wasn't affected, but it's explained that they couldn't actually get to him. And we know the story of poison. The poison obviously was neutralized. They had tried using mantras so that Prahlad would be haunted by a ghost, and that ghost would change his mentality. And those mantras had no effect. So each time that they were using some method, or like the snakes, they couldn't bite him. They couldn't. It's just each time, every effort they made, it was foiled in unnatural ways that never happen. These were like ferocious snakes. Actually, Hiranyakashipu used to starve his snakes, so they really want the blood. He couldn't do anything. And as a side point, there's a story. Some of you may know the story of this this Russian lady. Maybe we don't officially call her Russian, from the country of, I can't pronounce it. What is it? Abergidine? Nadia, what's that country? How do you pronounce it?
I don't know, Maharaj, how to pronounce it in English. I'm sorry.
Pronounce it in Russian.
Do you mean Azerbaijan?
Say it again. Say it again.
Azerbaijan.
Azerbaijan.
This country?
Padasevanam, the elder lady Padasevanam. Yeah. Where is that country? It used to be part of the Soviet Union? Yes?
Yes, it used to be. Now it's a separate country.
Yeah. So it's a long story, and it's an amazing story. I have to make it short because I want to make this point about, she was also taking care of Lord Narsimhadev in a hovelam. Wow, yeah, amazing. Yeah, so she was inspired by Krishna. Krishna spoke to her and told her to take care of this deity. And two things that stand out from the story. Number one, everybody thought this is crazy because the deity lives in a cave in a very remote place in a jungle with dangerous animals. And the Pujari only goes there once a week. It's a big effort. And there's no electricity, no water, no food, nothing. And she said, no, I'm going to move there. I'm going to live there. So she went there, and news quickly spread, and people came and supported her and built her a place to live, a hut, and brought her whatever she needed. And she worshiped the deity. And you have to walk through chest-high water to get to the deity, and there are bats hanging in the canyon. It's like a cave. And eventually the governor of the state was so inspired that he built roads, he built her a house, he put in electricity, because he said that we should be worshiping this deity, and this foreigner has come to worship, and we are neglecting. It's our duty. So she went there with nothing, depending on Krishna, and everybody thought she would die. And everyone in the village came to help her, and eventually the government came. And so she's staying there alone doing the puja, and then people come in the day. And she was bitten by a cobra. She went to Narsimhadev, and Narsimhadev said, just take some charnamrita and put it on the cobra bite, you'll be fine. And she did that, and she was fine. Who doesn't die from a cobra bite? Anyway, so what we're seeing in Krishna's protection is that unnatural things happen, that things that wouldn't ordinarily happen. An elephant comes to attack you and it stops. It can't get near you. The trident doesn't pierce you. The snakes, they can't bite you, or they bite you and nothing happens. And so on and on. So each time they tried something, then the poison in the food, then they tried to bewilder, mystic bewilderment. So Prahlada would kind of lose sense of who he was. And Krishna was there counteracting everything, counteracting the laws of nature, creating miracles, miracles, something that doesn't ordinarily happen. So it just shows that when a devotee has that much faith in Krishna's protection, then Krishna comes to give that protection. So the more we have faith in the protection, the more protected we will be. The less we have faith in that protection, then generally what we'll find is the more we try to protect ourselves, the more we will do it, like with Draupadi. Draupadi's story is a good example because, if you look at it from this perspective, if we want to analyze it this way, there are many ways we can analyze it. We want to analyze it this way. She was depending on Krishna, but she was also not depending on Krishna. And someone might say, well, we should try to protect ourselves and also pray to Krishna. In this situation, it was obvious she couldn't protect herself, but she was trying. Have you ever tried to protect yourself when it's obvious you can't? So we can learn that. And it was only till she gave up trying to protect herself that Krishna was at that point willing to come to protect her. So I was explaining that on Sunday in Alachua in the class in the morning, that Krishna's protection has a lot to do with the devotee's faith in Krishna's protection. And it's kind of a paradox. Because when I don't have faith, then Krishna's protection will be less. And then if that's the case, it then decreases my faith in his protection. So I said, well, I was trying to take shelter of Krishna, but he didn't protect me. Well, maybe it's because you didn't have faith, he didn't protect you. So he was just reciprocating with your lack of faith. And in that reciprocation of lack of faith, you take it as confirmation that he's not protecting me, which is obviously the wrong understanding, but it's not uncommon for that to happen. And I always tell devotees who lack faith, I say that, have you ever been in a situation in which you had an experience of lack of faith, like something happened because you lacked faith? I think it's more common than something happening because we have faith. And often something happens and we realize it's because I didn't have faith in Krishna this happened. If I would have had faith, this bad thing would not have happened. So I always say we have more experience with the negative. And so if we have experience with the negative, why can't we use that to create faith in the positive? Well, this happened because I didn't have faith. Okay, use that to think or to act with faith so the opposite would happen. So that that's really, it's so amazing what's happening with Prahlada, because by his faith, Krishna is interfering with the laws of nature. Just like some people ask, how can stones float? How can stones float? it makes it sound like mythology. Here you have monkey soldiers. Like, when was the last time you saw a monkey in Ukraine fighting the battle? Well, maybe someday we'll have monkey robots. I don't know. But monkey soldiers are beyond our experience. At least I've never seen them. Have you? Yeah. With YouTube, if they exist, you'd think we would have seen them. And then these monkey soldiers are floating stones. Stones don't float. So Prabhupada explained, well, how could a stone float? Well, it was the easy way to build a bridge, didn't require a lot of engineering, right? You just put stones out and then they float and then you walk on them. Somehow or other, I guess they were fairly stable. They were floating stably on the ocean. So it was kind of quick. So even monkeys without engineering degrees were able to build this bridge. So Prabhupada answered that Lord Ram is the one who created the law of gravitation. Lord Ram is the one who created the law that stones don't float. So if he created the law that stones don't float, he could also renege that law and let stones float, right? Because if he made the law, and he can make another law. He can say, okay, that law is not going to take place right here on the way to Lanka at this time. We're going to change that law and stones are going to float. But you have to write my name on it, Ram, then they'll float. As long as my name is on, I will allow them to float. So if we understand faith, meaning Krishna intervening to change the laws of nature, then perhaps our faith will grow more. And we remember the story of Lord Ram, where he did that. And we are remembering the story of Prahlada Maharaj, where he's doing that one after the other, and every attempt is being foiled. And Hiranyakashipu he couldn't understand. After a while, it became obvious that you can't kill him. Somebody is protecting him. Something's going on here. One time, maybe a fluke. Okay, the tridents didn't work somehow. We don't understand. But nothing worked. So then Hiranyakashipu is completely bewildered, and he's asking, it's obvious he's got some Shakti. Prahlada Maharaj has got some Shakti. So he's asking, where do you get your Shakti? And so we know the story. There's another interesting point that I heard the other day. When Lord Narsimhadev came out of the pillar, one of the things we say is that, well, Prahlad said, I see Narsimhadev in the pillar, so to fulfill to make that true, that no, I see Narsimha has to come out of the pillar to make Prahlad's statement true. So that's one point. Another point is, obviously, he appears to protect his devotee. But there's another point, he appeared to prove Siddhanta. What was the Siddhanta, or philosophy? He appeared to prove a philosophical point, which is what? Krishna is everywhere. Krishna is in everything. So by coming out of the pillar, he also proved that point. So, and there may be other points we could imagine, we could say imagine. If we discuss further, we could probably think of other things that are proven by him coming out of the pillar. He can do anything, any way he wants. But that's also Siddhantic. So many of the points that we could prove by him coming out of the pillar would prove the philosophy. So he came to also demonstrate Siddhanta. I'm finding it really important for our faith to hear stories about Lord Narsimhadev, contemporary stories of Lord Narsimhadev appearing. So there's a story that happened during the time of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta of a pujari who had a dream that Lord Narsimhadev was tearing his chest apart and telling the pujari to leave the temple and never come back. He said, otherwise I will kill you, because this pujari apparently had stolen money from the hundi. He said, leave this temple immediately, never come back, or I will kill you because you have stolen money. from the hundi, the donation box. And this devotee went kind of crazy. He was crying and screaming and running. And he went to Bhaktisiddhanta, explained, and then he left, went back to his village, never to be seen again. There's another story we heard in Mayapur that occasionally the pujari would hear, in the pujari room, he would hear loud roaring. Hare Krishna. And we've told the story, or we've explained the point several times, that worshiping in Nrsimha Shila, if you're not qualified, is not something you should do, because you could be destroyed by that worship. And so, sometimes we think, well, isn't it just a stone? But when you hear these stories, you understand Lord Nrsimhadev is there. It's not just a stone. Recently, I heard a story of a Lord Nrsimhadev deity that was buried for many years, and a devotee had a dream, and this is this happens a lot. The devotee has a dream, and the deity speaks to them in the dream and say, I've been buried. I've been here for so many years. Please excavate me. Please worship me. Please feed me. We have stories of the deities in Jagannath Mandir in Mayapur speaking to the pujaris and saying, I don't like the prasadam you're feeding me. I'm going to Mayapur. Radha Madhava gets better prasadam. If you want me to stay, then bring, that prasadam, that bhoga they're getting, cook it for me also, I want it. And Lord Nrsimhadev telling the pujari, when you wake me up in the morning, the light is in my eyes, please don't put that light in my eyes. And on and on and on. So it's important for us to hear these stories, because we may question, is this just a representation of Lord Nrsimhadev, or is he actually there? And so the more stories you hear, the more your faith increases. Yeah, he is there. He's interacting with the devotees. And we told the story on Sunday that most pujaris of Lord Nrsimhadev have some fear that they will make an offense. And Lord Nrsimhadev actually appeared, not in a dream, to a pujari, but he appeared in his room. And the devotee woke up, and Lord Nrsimhadev was sitting on his bed and saying, please don't be in anxiety. Don't worry. Be peaceful when you worship me. No harm will come to you. And typically what happens when devotees get darshan of Krishna, they kind of lose their mind, as you could imagine. And this devotee was just running up and down the long building, just lost his mind. He just had darshan of Lord Nrsimhadev. And Lord Nrsimhadev touched him on his shoulders, and there were marks on his shoulders, I think, for years. Isn't that interesting? So for all of us who have difficulty accepting fully 108% that Krishna is present in the deity, these stories are important. Aren't they? Don't you think? You may say, I believe, but there may be some doubt. Or maybe this Nrsimhadev deity, he's present, but not this one. No. And the question, well, how can he be present in stone or metal? But, to ask that kind of question is foolish, because how could you limit what Krishna can do? If he wants to be present in a deity, why can't he be? Like, it doesn't make any sense to think, well, he can't be. How can he be? Does it? Like, is there something he can't do? So if he wants to be present in the stone, fully present, you think, oh, it's just stone. It must not be fun to be in stone. You can't move around. No, but that is him. He can move. There are stories of deities that would go out from the temple in the evening, do rasa dance, come back in the temple. One story, I think it was in Ramuna, perhaps, where he would go out and nobody believed him. and the Bajari would say, no, he's gone out. But I think Bajari had his chadar, and they thought, oh, you stole his chadar. And finally, the deity would reveal that, no, I do go out. In the story of Sakshi Gopal, where he came to keep the promise, to fulfill the desire of his devotee, to witness in a hearing that a Brahmin had made a promise, that a man had made a promise to a Brahmin to give his daughter to this Brahmin. And the family made a story that's a false story, because they didn't want their daughter or their sister to marry this Brahmin. And the Brahmin didn't really care. But the father of this girl made a promise, and the Brahmin thought, he made a promise in front of you, the deity. If he breaks it, then he will suffer. And the son said, well, if the deity comes here to witness, then I'll accept it. Because the son was an atheist, or he at least didn't believe the deity could come there. And the deity actually walked. And this Brahmin was talking to the deity, asking him to come. And the deity said, I will come. And even the Brahmin didn't have faith. And the Brahmin said, but how can you come? The deity said, I'll walk behind you. Brahmin said, well, how can you walk? You're stone. And the deity said, well, then how can I talk if I'm stone? If I can talk, I can walk. And the deity said, I will walk behind you. You will hear me because I have ankle bells. So as long as you walk, I will walk behind you. But if you turn around to look, to see me, that's where I'll stop. And at some point after a long trip, he didn't hear the ankle bells, and he worried, naturally turned around. There the deity was, and he stopped there. That's the deity of Sakshi Gopal. Sakshi means witness. So he became a witness to that promise the Brahmin made. So you can go on and on with deity stories. And these stories are important for us because it's so easy to see the deity as something material. Hare Krishna. Yeah. So I have a prayer from Bhaktivinoda Thakur. I thought we could read it. I will have to bring it up. Give me a moment. I'm going to put this prayer in the chat so we can read it. It's quite interesting. It's a prayer by Bhaktivinoda Thakur to Lord Narsimhadev. Perhaps you've seen this before. You know, sometimes we wonder how to pray to Lord Narsimhadev. Oh, I think I've copied too much. It won't print it all. We'll have to go little by little. Maybe verse by verse. Let's try it again. Yeah, there you go. So it's there if you want the Bengali, you could copy it yourself. But in the interest of time in my poor Bengali, you probably want to hear me sing Bengali, right? I don't know the melody. E dushta hridoy kama adi ripu chaya kuti nati patishthasha shatya shadharaya hridaya shodhana ore krishnera bhashana nishinga charane mora e to kamana. Within my sinful heart, the 6 enemies headed by lust perpetually reside, as well as duplicity, the desire for fame, plus sheer cunning. At the lotus feet of Lord Narsimhadev, I hope that he will mercifully purify my heart and give me the desire to serve Lord Krishna. Can you relate to that? With some 6 enemies, I thought I had 600. If I only had 6, I'd be doing good. Of course, the other 594 are just byproducts of these six. So these are the six enemies: lust, anger, greed, envy, illusion, badness. The seven mortal sins, I think they call them in Catholicism. Is it seven or six also? So we've been talking about how we can pray to Lord Narsimhadev to purify you of your anarthas. So this song is all about that. So we'll put up the next verse. Kandiya Nrsimha Pade Magibo Kakana Nirapade Navadvipe Jugala Bhajana Bhaya Bhaya Paya Yanra Darshane Se Hari Prasanaha Ibakabe Mora Dare Doya Kori. Weeping, I will beg at the lotus feet of Lord Nrsimha for the benediction of worshiping Radha and Krishna in Navadvip, perfectly safe and free from all difficulties. When will this Lord Hari, whose terrible form strikes fear into fear itself, ever become pleased and show me his mercy? So we see this, what I've been talking about also. He's praying to Lord Narsimhadev to be able to worship Radha and Krishna. So it follows from the verse before, because how can you perfectly worship Radha and Krishna if your heart is full of these six contaminations? So, and often in the prayers of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he has this kabe. Kabe means when. So when is this going to happen? When is this going to happen means kabe mora daye kari. When will I get this mercy? It means I'm anxiously awaiting for it. This is what I want. This is the goal of my life. And you have, you have so many goals. We have so many goals. And so what's the goal of the pure devotee? Krishna's mercy, so he can worship Radha and Krishna. Now, Nrsimha have some connection with Lord Jagannath. I've heard there's some connection, but I don't know how much. I know offhand, I know stories of his connection with Mahaprabhu. I'll have to think. When you have Pavana Jagannath and you have Pavana Nrsimha. I mean, in a sense, you could say there's so many ways you could say he has connection from a philosophical point of view, because their mission is the same, to give mercy, right? You know that story where, who was it? That was it? One devotee in Jagannath Puri who was upset that the pandits were eating fish, and he was complaining, and Lord Jagannath came and slapped him right out of Jagannath Puri. Was it Pundarik Vidyanidhi? So you could say that's kind of a Nrsimha Leela. And you can say wherever there's great anger in the devotee, that's a manifestation of Lord Nrsimhadev. That's one way of looking at it. Do you know that the Brahmins, the Pandas in Orissa, Jagannath Puri, they're not all vegetarians. Some eat fish. And they say, well, fish is vegetarian because it's the fruit of the sea. And anyway, Jagannath accepted their worship. I'm not recommending that it's okay for pujaris to eat fish. But Lord Jagannath accepted their worship. They've been worshiping him for many years. They, were coming from a tribal background. And so when they were criticized by a great devotee, by a great elevated devotee, when they were criticized, Lord Jagannath didn't like it. So, yeah, so that's an example. So we see these prayers of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So there's always this hankering, which is nice because you can think about what you hanker for every day. What's on your mind. What's on your mind today, Prabhu? What are you hankering for today? What's on your list of things you want? Is it different than what Bhaktivinoda Thakur is praying for? Could be, right? A little bit. So if you can make your to-do list or your list of desires like his list, that'd be quite nice, don't you think? Oh, Hare Krishna. I have a lot of friends now that have moved into my office, cucarachas, and I don't have anything for them to eat in here. I don't know why they come, but their remnants are all over the place. Hare Krishna. And just anyway, that's another topic. So Yadyapi Bhishana Murti Dushta Jiva Prati Prahlada Krsna Bhakta Jane Bhadra Ati Kobe Bha Poshana Hoye Shakripa Bhochane Nirbhoya Kuribe Emudha Akinchune. That's the best I can do, Bengali wise. Even though Nrsimha is terrifying for sinful souls, he offers great auspiciousness unto the devotees of Lord Krishna, headed by Prahlada Maharaj. When will he be pleased to speak words of compassion unto me, a worthless fool, and thereby make me fearless? There's a deity of Lord Narsimhadev in the Jagannath temple itself. Yeah, okay. The connection is there. If anybody knows any stories of Lord Jagannath and Lord Narsimhadev, they can tell us. We'll tell some stories about Lord Chaitanya becoming like Lord Narsimhadev. That happened a couple times. Let's finish reading the song. Did I read translation? Did I read the translation? Yeah, make me feel this. Okay. So Chande Bhaisha, He Vash Bhatsa Shri Gauranga Dhame Jugal Bhajan Ho Uroti Ha O Name Moma Bhokta Kripa Bhole Bigna Jabe Dhora Shudha Chite Bhojo Radha Krishna Rosha Pura. I lived in Mayapur, so I can kind of fake it. He will say, "Dear child, sit down freely and live happily here in Sri Gauranga Dham. May you nicely worship the divine couple, and may you develop loving attachment for their holy names. By the mercy of my devotees, all obstacles are cast far away. The purified heart just perform the worship of Radha and Krishna, for such worship overflows with sweet nectar." This is what he wants Krishna to tell him. Sit down in Mayapur, worship the divine couple, and develop attachment to their holy names. And all obstacles will be cast aside if you do that. We have some more messages here. Let's see what. This website speaks about Lord Nrsimha and Jagannath. Okay. Well, that answers that question. Okay. Now, give me 1 second because I want to copy that. Because if I go to that website, I have such a slow internet connection that I will freeze. So we'll look at that later. Maybe we can read some of that from for another class. E bhole khobe mora mushtoko upor shio si chorane horshe doribe ishoro moni jugal prema shatvika vikore dorai lutibo omi si nishinga dhare. Saying this, will that Lord delightedly place his lotus feet on my head, I will experience sublime love for the divine, couple Radha and Krishna, and undergo the ecstatic transformations called sattvika. Falling on the ground, I will roll about at the door of Nrsimha's temple. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. So one time, Lord Chaitanya got in a mood. You ever get in a bad mood? Don't talk to me. You want to go out? No. You want ice cream? No. You want $1 million? No. Lord Chaitanya got in a bad mood. And he ran into Navadvip and he started screaming, I will kill all the atheists. Hare Krishna. Everybody was going crazy. Anyway, his devotees calmed him down eventually. But he entered that mood of Lord Nrsimhadev. That does happen. So, sometimes we say, well, when Krishna gets very upset, it's Lord Nrsimhadev is manifesting. Okay, few other points. Oh yeah, maybe you know this story. It's quite an interesting story. You know that after Hiranyakashipu was given all these boons, he actually wanted more boons. Did you know that? So what happened was, because he didn't think of asking Lord Shiva because Lord Shiva came out of Brahma's eyebrows. So Lord Brahma's superior. And so Brahma had to devise a trick. It was because of Prahlada Maharaj that Hiranyakashipu was killed. If there's no Prahlada Maharaj, he wouldn't have been killed, right? Well, that's our understanding. So Brahma teamed up with Parvat Muni, and they came where Hiranyakashipu was doing tapasya, and they were disguised as sparrows. So they came in the form of birds. And sparrows sing loudly. So, excuse me. Narada Muni and his companion Parvat Muni came with Brahma, but they came as birds, as sparrows. And then Brahma came And as Brahma was talking to Hiranyakashipu, the birds started singing, Om Namo Narayana, 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 really loudly. It was so, they did it 3 times. And the second time they did it was so loud that Brahma and Hiranyakashipu couldn't talk. And the third time, the sound was so loud it covered the 3 worlds. And Hiranyakashipu was like, Rah! And he tried to kill the birds. And when you're doing austerity, if you become angry, you lose all the Shakti that you gain from the austerity. Isn't that interesting? So he got angry, he lost all his Shakti, and he just went back home. And I guess to recuperate, regroup, to get ready to go out again. And his wife said, that's very good that you've come home, because right now is a perfect time for us to beget a child. So she was happy. His wife said, anyway, why did you come home? He said, because the birds were chanting, Om Namo Narayana, Om Namo Narayana, Om Namo Narayana. And while they were conceiving this Om Namo Narayana, Om Namo Narayana, it was going through, so he couldn't stop thinking about it. I guess he was agitated by it, something, but he couldn't stop thinking about it. So he gave birth to a great devotee son, Hare Krishna. How many of you knew that story? Have heard that before? Raise your hand. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Tanya has heard everything. You must be reading like 5 hours a day or something. She knows everything. Or maybe you have a perfect memory. Maybe you should give class, Tanya. You probably know more than I do. Hare Krishna. So, yes. I will check out that website and see if some of those stories are appropriate. Yeah, sometimes stories you don't always know where they come from. So we could now resume where we're reading. We left off reading. Where was that, Tanya? Did you make a note?
I did, Gurudev.
So it's 7.
7, 10, 19 was the last verse we read.
Thank you. So who is speaking here? This is the Supreme Lord is speaking. So text 19. You want to post it and you'll post it? I'll chant the Sanskrit while you post it. Yatra yatra chadmad bhakta prashanta shamadharshanaha sadhava samudha charas te punyante pikikataha. Whenever, yatra yatra, and wherever, Madbhakta, my devotees, well, let's read the trend. Whenever and wherever there are peaceful, equipoised devotees who are well-behaved and decorated with all good qualities, that place and the dynasties there, even if condemned, are purified. So, this is an assurance that his father will be purified, everyone will be purified, no problem. And sometimes, we feel the desire to pay back our parents or relatives for the service they've given. And from the karmic point of view, it's true that we have a debt. Bhagavatam says that you have debt to so many people. To the gurus, the kings, the parents, the animals, the earth. I mean, if you look around, there's so many things that we live off of. There's so many entities, human and non-human, that help us. You go into a store, just for that one box of cereal, how many people worked on that? Somebody had to grow the grains, transport the grains, mill the grains, cook the grains, package the grains, transport the grains, design the box, manufacture the box. Just go down the list for your little box of cereal. There was like lots of people, and then someone had to manage the store, and so many people work in the store. So you could be benefiting from the work of 50 people for one box of cereal. So we do have these obligations, but we're devotees. So devotees don't have those obligations because we're not karmically bound. But if you're not a devotee, you do have those obligations. But still, as devotees, we often feel we would like to do something to reciprocate with our parents. And when you're served, if you don't pay back, you have to come back in your next life and serve that person. So I always try to outserve my disciples, because I feel like if they're serving me and I don't serve them more, then there's a kind of it's unjust for me to take the service. I think we should all feel that way. If we're ever being served, we should always feel we should serve more. How can I take service if I don't give it back? At least equally, if not more. So this is so nice when we're trying to reciprocate in some way with our parents. Often we can't. There's nothing we can directly do that they would appreciate other than us giving up Krishna consciousness. That would, in some cases, the only way you could reciprocate with your parents is don't be a devotee, or if you're a brahmachari, move out of the temple or something like that, or break some regulative principles. That'll make them happy in some cases. Not always, but sometimes. So we can't reciprocate that way, but if we become pure devotees, then that's the best way to reciprocate. That's the best service we could possibly give them. So just remember that. And, it's a big thing when your parents die, even for many advanced devotees, it kind of brings things out that they didn't know were in there, certain attachments and so forth. And usually after someone dies in the Vedic culture or Hindu culture, you do some offerings, some puja for them, for their benefit. And sometimes it's said that the benefit is more for you than for them, because if you can, now they're dead, but you want to serve them, you want to do something to help them. So you do some puja on their behalf, some offering to the forefathers, or some puja for the departed, or you offer a feast in their name. So it's actually them offering the feast, or you make a donation in their name. So it's actually them getting the benefit. So you're actually benefiting in some cases more than they are, because now you get to serve them, and they're gone, but you get to serve them, so you're pacified in that service. So anyway, we should understand that just by being devotees, doing our daily sadhana, we're serving them in the best way. So, and when your parents die, you think this is a difficult time and a horrible thing, but it's actually not horrible, because in their next life they become devotees. So what's horrible about that? So I don't want to be unsympathetic or sound kind of nasty, but being a devotee is better than not being a devotee, right? So when they die, they're actually going to a better place. So rather than lament, we should rejoice, shouldn't we? Oh, they've gone, they're in a better situation, they become devotees. At least that's a way to think. And when we lose someone who's close to us, sometimes it's difficult, and devotees try to process it. And the processing has already been done in Bhagavad Gita, but it's so sometimes so difficult to actually follow that, to think in those terms. But whenever these things came to Prabhupada, that's what he told us. He told us the same thing he always told us. You're not the body, you're eternal, don't lament. Which someone might think, well, that's kind of an unsympathetic thing to say when a loved one has just died. But ultimately, it's the most compassionate thing to say, because it's the only thing ultimately that can pacify you, because it's true. And it's the only thing that will help you, the best thing to help you get through. Time will help you get through, but in the meantime, what will help you get through the most is Krishna's instruction. So there's a very positive side to this also. And we all go through this, but it can be very positive, especially if you're able to help your parents in the last days, if you're there with them, chanting, giving them prasadam, whatever you can do. It's actually quite ecstatic, because it probably becomes the best part of their life, those last days with you helping them, giving them Krishna consciousness. And if you're able to do that, what I've seen, that for many devotees who are able to do that, it's quite an uplifting experience. They actually become, especially if their parents are very old, they become very blissful. That was such an auspicious way, even to leave their body, even though they weren't devotees, but they allowed you to take care of them, give them charnamrita, prasadam, tulsi, and so forth. So, okay. We are going to I don't know the story about his disappearance. If you could find out that story, one thing is, two things: find out the story and find out where it comes from. There's one story in which Prabhupada was asked about a story. Prabhupada, do you know this story? And Prabhupada said, no. No, the devotee said, Prabhupada, is this story true? He told the story. And Prabhupada said he had never heard the story. And he asked, where is that story? He said, that story is in such and such Purana. And Prabhupada said, if it's in the Purana, then it's true. Of course, you want to make sure it's the right translation. That was Prabhupada's general standard. If it's just a story coming from somewhere, it's not Shastric, then you have to, kind of double check. If you're a storyteller, the more far out the stories you hear, the more you like them. And you don't want to check where they come from, because sometimes the stories are so cool. You're just like, I have to tell this story. It's amazing. Yeah, but maybe that's a story in some Shastra that's not accepted by Gaudiya Vaishnavas or accepted by another Sampradaya. Something to consider. Hare Krishna. Rajaras knows, because he's Indian. He knows about stories. Sometimes what happens is you open a temple and you make up a story about the deity. If you see this deity, give a donation, then it'll cure your cancer, or you'll get a beautiful husband who's rich, and like that. Which in some cases may be true. In some cases, it's just advertising, So they'll get more people to the temple, more people to come to the temple, you get more donations. So then the temple becomes a family business. And they even want to say, in this place where the temple is established, this Leela happened. It may not be true. So you have to kind of, be careful. Yeah. That happened with the appearance place of Mahaprabhu. That They opened a temple in Navadvip and said, this is his appearance place. But as we know, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, with help of Jagannath Das Babaji, found out that no, that's not the birthplace of Mahaprabhu. And so, yeah, have to be careful. Now, there's a nice story about this. I don't know if you know this story. Because it's because sometimes, deities have a reputation, like Kavita is saying, if you pray to Balaji, Balaji has a reputation, whatever you pray for. In Tirupati, he will fulfill. Girls go there and they cut their hair off, shave it off, and offer their hair. They sell that hair for wigs. It's one of the ways they make money. If any of you want to go there and can shave your head, make an offering. So that's the reputation. I'm not saying it's not true. So many of the reputations of these deities are true. They're not made up. And it attracts lots of people who will go there and pray for material things, because Indian people are pious. They believe in God. And so pious people, when they want to achieve something great, they understand if God doesn't give his blessing, it's not going to happen. Or if he doesn't give his blessing, it's going to be inauspicious if I achieve it. So they want to get his blessing. So they understand, I have to work for it, but without his blessing, it's not auspicious and it may not happen. So one devotee said to Prabhupada at the time they were opening the Juhu temple, can we make a story up about Radha Rasa Bihari? That these deities do this or they give this. So just another temple with a reputation. And that way more people will come if you advertise. You come to this temple, you see this deity, Radha Rasa Bihari, then your mother-in-law won't bother you anymore. No, not like that, but something bigger than that. Your mother-in-law, if she bothers you, she probably always will, constitutional position. And if she doesn't bother you, she probably never will. So, and Prabhupada said, no. And the reason he said no was that we don't want to allure people to Krishna consciousness with some material bait. We want to allure them with pure bhakti. So if we offer some material bait, he said, then they're coming for the wrong reason. Right? So we don't want to allure people for the wrong reason. Which it's interesting, when we're reaching out to people, inviting people to programs, we want to lure them. Of course, come, dance, chant, you don't have to shave your head and so on. But we don't want to say, come to the temple, if you give a donation, you'll become rich. We don't want people to give a donation to become rich. We don't want to. Some devotees have done that. They collected a lot of donations that way, but it's not ideally what we want to say. We don't want to allure people with some material purpose, because Prabhupada is representing Rupa Goswami, where Rupa Nuga is, and the most important verse of Rupa Goswami, at least on Vaidhi Bhakti, is Anyabhilashito Shunyam Jnana Karmada Navritam. Bhakti should be done purely, without motive for any material gain. So that's why in ISKCON, there's no rumors that this deity will bring you some material benefits. Prabhupada wouldn't allow it. And if you ever find any temple advertising like that, then go tell them. That's not what Prabhupada wants. I haven't seen a temple advertise that. Shiva Purana, Linga Purana. Okay, if you can find the story, send it to me. Shiva Purana, yeah. And different Puranas will have, well, there's two things. Different Puranas will have different angles on stories, because Shiva Purana is obviously promoting Lord Shiva. Padma Purana is promoting Lord Vishnu. And then also, you also find that stories may differ because of different ages they happened in. So that same story happens many times, and it may happen differently because Krishna may want to do it differently. Variety is the spice of life. So that's also why you get contradictions. And Krishna consciousness is so deep, and you'll never end in your understanding. And that's why sometimes things appear to be different, because the understandings are so deep that when you go deeper, it starts to look different sometimes. That's just the nature of philosophy and spirituality. It's not always so straightforward. So why doesn't Krishna do it the same every time? It doesn't feel like doing it the same every time is boring. At least it is for me. I teach seminars, but I change them up a little bit because I get bored just teaching it exactly the same way. I have to entertain myself also. So Krishna is doing his leelas for our benefit, but he's also doing it for his transcendental enjoyment. When Mahaprabhu comes, the primary reason is not preaching. The primary reason is to experience the mood of Radharani, but he also preaches. But he's coming first for himself. So sometimes he can change things up a bit. Last millennium, we did it this way. This millennium, we'll do it this way. Let's have a little fun now. Something like that. Hare Krishna. So, we still have time for more nectar. So, verse 20. Sarvatmana na hingshanti bhuta grameshu kinchana uchavacheshu daityendra madbhava pikata sprihaha. Sprihaha. You didn't know I knew Sanskrit so well, did you? I don't, but I like to chant it properly. My dear Prahlad, king of the Daityas, because of being attached to devotional service to me, my devotee does not distinguish between lower and higher living entities. In all respects, he is never jealous of anyone. Why is he not jealous of anyone? Because everyone is part and parcel of Krishna. Everyone is dear to Krishna. Krishna loves everyone. Why would you be jealous of someone who Krishna loves? That wouldn't be proper. If Krishna loves them, you love them. Krishna loves everyone, even the ones he hates, so-called hates, right? Does Krishna love Hiranyakashipu? Yeah, he loves him dead, but he still loves him. And he loved the fight he had with him, and he loved his son Prahlada. Of course, Hiranyakashipu is a special case. Okay, text 21. Bhavanti purusha loke mad bhaktashtam anuvrataha bhavan me kalu bhaktanam sarvesham pratirupa drik. Those who follow your example will naturally become my pure devotees. You are the best example of my devotee, and others should follow in your footsteps. Now, this can appear strange. It's like, Prahlada is the best example? I thought it was Radharani. Well, if we're looking at the examples of Jiva Tattva, Prahlada is the example of pure bhakti, even though, so in that sense, the best devotee, because his devotion is pure. There may be devotees who have mixed devotion, like the demigods. So on that level of sadhakas, practitioners, on that level of Prahlada's playing this role of conditioned soul, his bhakti is pure. Is it as high as? No, it's not as high as others, because he's in a lower rasa, not a higher rasa. So as you go higher, the bhakti is higher. But in terms of the general bhaktas, it is said in terms, if you read Brihad Bhagavatamrita, as Narada Muni is looking for the pure devotee, Prahlad's the first one where pure devotional service starts. That's where it starts with Prahlada. The other ones are like not considered pure, entirely pure, but Prahlada is considered pure. And so in that sense, he is an inspiration in so many ways for us. And especially an inspiration because as conditioned souls, we have, it's hard for us to relate to the gopis. And we're not even supposed to try to relate and imitate. It's not our position. So Prahlada is someone we can relate to, be inspired by. I mean, in higher stages, of course, the inspiration is going to come from the higher leelas, but you have to be highly qualified. And if you're so-called inspired by higher leelas before you're qualified, something's wrong. I mean, not that we shouldn't be inspired, but if you think that's what you're supposed to focus on and you think you really understand it, then it's just better go back to Prahlada because that's what you can really understand right now. So that's why Prahlada is important. And, if it wasn't that important, why would there be 10 cantos in the Bhagavatam? There wouldn't be, right? Okay. So we're going to get to read more. This is text 22. Kuru tvam preta krityani pitu putasya sarvashaha mad anga sparshane anga lokan yashanti suprajaha. My dear child, your father has already been purified just by the touch of my body at the time of his death. Nonetheless, the duty of a son is to perform the Shraddha ritualistic ceremony after his father's death, so that his father may be promoted to a planetary system where he may become a good citizen and devotee. So for us, Prabhupada said the benediction is that our relatives will become devotees. That is the best benediction, better than they go to Brahmaloka, better than they go to Brahman, Brahmajyoti. They take birth in the family of devotees. What a blessing. So by becoming a devotee, you make your parents devotees. Everybody wants their parents, isn't it? Like when you become a devotee, you think, I wish my parents would become devotees. Well, your wish is fulfilled. You just become pure devotee and your parents will become devotees. Like I said the other day, there's some devotee in ISKCON about 45 years old. That's my mother. And there's some devotee in ISKCON 20 years old, and that's my father. Could be right here in Alachua. I don't know. Who knows, right? Some astrologer may know. Sometimes I think like that. I think, oh, well, maybe my mother and father will become my disciples. Then I can pay them back. I can serve them. Yeah. But who knows, right? We'll find it. We may never find out, or we may find out when we become pure devotees, or we may find out when we go back to God. Who knows? Text 23. Pitriam chastanam atishta yatoktam brahmavadibihi maya vesha manastata kuru karmani matpadaha. After performing the ritualistic ceremonies, take charge of your father's kingdom. Sit upon the throne and do not be disturbed by materialistic activities. Please keep your mind fixed upon me. Without transgressing the injunctions of the Vedas, as a matter of formality, you may perform your prescribed duties. So we talked a little bit about this before, where Hiranyakashipu is basically saying, like he did with Bali Maharaj, take charge of the demons, the Asuric families, and live as a king and enjoy, quote unquote. Of course, as we discussed, Lord Narsimhadev is really not worried about Prahlada being bewildered by material opulence. That's not going to happen. But he's basically saying, you're a pure devotee, so you don't need to do all this tapasya. Live a comfortable life and serve me in this position. And Prabhupada, of course, encouraged austerity. But he also told us that the biggest austerity is to bring other people into Krishna consciousness. So although he encouraged austerity, he would often say, live comfortably. It's not a problem. Just not. He didn't encourage lavish living, but he didn't encourage torturous, uncomfortable living. Kind of car are you buying, Prabhu? I'm buying the oldest car I can find with springs coming out of the seat. So it'll be so uncomfortable. I'll be doing tapasya at every moment that I drive my car. That was not Prabhupada's mood, In fact, I'm going to put thumbtacks on the seat just to add a little more austerity to the drive, because Prabhupada said, if you become too comfortable, then it's not good for your bhakti. Yeah, so that, not exactly Prabhupada's mood. And of course, austerity, the desire to perform austerity is a natural byproduct of advancing. But if the austerity is beyond what you're capable of or what you can desire at this point, is not healthy. And you just become grumpy and angry. Why are you so angry today? Because I'm fasting. Don't talk to me. Yeah, oh, great, Better eat something than like offend all the Vaishnavas, right? Hungry people sometimes offend Vaishnavas. Better, though all of you hungry people who offend Vaishnavas, better you eat, right? So sometimes Shastra talks about austerity is hardening the heart, not melting the heart. Bhakti is about melting the heart. So sometimes austerities can make, because they can be so unnatural in a certain condition that it makes the heart hard. It can also minimize the real thing, which is bhakti. So austerity is not the goal, bhakti is the goal. And another thing austerity can do, interestingly, well, maybe it's not such a surprise, it can cause one to become proud. Because I'm more austere than you, therefore, I believe I'm better than you. And so my austerities are supporting my belief that I'm better than you. So if that's the case, sense gratification might be more healthy for you, keep you humble. Not that I'm recommending sense gratification, but you understand what I'm saying. Sometimes austerity feeds the false ego. You're fasting today, but inside you're feeding a feast to your false ego. So what's the point? I'm the most austere devotee in my temple. Great. And you're also the most puffed up. So if that austerity is making you proud, better don't do it. Or better learn how to do it without becoming proud. But if you can't do that, then don't feed your pride. Yeah, it's always dangerous. Okay, I'm going to go. Let's see how many more verses there are. 24. So now Narada Muni is speaking. That was Krishna who was speaking. Now Narada Muni is speaking. Sri Narada Uvacha Parado pi tata chakre piturya samparayikam yataha bhagavan rajana bhishito nabhishito tujati bihi. Sri Narada Muni continued thus. As the Supreme Personality of Godhead ordered, Prahlada Maharaj performed the ritualistic ceremonies for his father. O King Yudhisthira, he was then enthroned in the kingdom of Hiranyakashipu as directed by the Brahmins. Yeah, so, another reason why Lord Nrsimhadev wanted Prahlad to be the king is because Prahlad's a devotee. So that's the best possible thing for the people who had this atheistic king. What could be better? So why would he tell Prahlad, oh yeah, just go into a cave and chant? This is the best service you could do to the people. And as we know, Krishna is always concerned about the welfare of everyone. So when we know, and Prabhupada has said so many times, when there's a good king, everything gets good. When there's a bad king, everything gets bad. So this is the best, you can say, the most compassionate thing that Lord Nrsimhadev could do for the world was to ask Prahlad Maharaj to become the king, get rid of a demoniac king and put in a devotee king. That's the best action Lord Nrsimhadev could take for the welfare of the world. Paritanaya sadhunam vinasaya chaduskrita. This vinasaya, the duskrita, getting rid of the duskrita, it's hard to get rid of them. It's Kali Yuga, but in other ages, the kinds of leaders we have today, most wouldn't be alive. The Brahmins would have got rid of them. Of course, most would never have been in office in the first place. They wouldn't have been qualified. But if they snuck in the back door, and they didn't represent the Brahmanas would oust them from office. That's the duty of the Brahmins. So most of the leaders today would not make the grade as leaders by the standards that Brahmins set for leaders, which of course is not surprising to you. So now we're text 25. Is that correct? 25? Yeah. Prasada sumukam drishtva Brahma nara harim stutva vagbi pavitrabhihi praha devadibhir prataha. Lord Brahma, surrounded by the other demigods, was bright-faced because the Lord was pleased. Thus he offered prayers to the Lord with transcendental words. So it was Lord Brahma who wanted to pacify Lord Nrsimhadev, and he was trying and eventually decided it would be Prahlad Maharaj who would be the best one. So now Brahma's happy because it actually happened. Otherwise, it's kind of terrifying to be around Lord Nrsimhadev, who's personifying all the anger of the universe, you could imagine. You ever been around someone who's really angry? It's very awkward, isn't it? It's like it's embarrassing, isn't it? So you could imagine the scene. It's like, what do we do now? The Lord of the universe, the one who is supposed to save us all, is in this destructive mode. We have to pacify him. Yeah, so. Text 26. Sri Brahmavacha Deva Deva Kila Yaksha Bhuta Bhavana Purvaja Tishtya Te Nihata Papo Loka Shantapano Suraha. Lord Brahma said, O Supreme Lord of all worlds, proprietor of the entire universe, O benedictor of all living entities, O original person, Adi Purusha, because of our good fortune, you have now killed this sinful demon who was giving trouble to the entire universe. It's hard to imagine one person could give trouble to the whole universe. You know, we look at the world today and we see that there are many leaders who lack the qualities of great kings. And sometimes we say, well, these are big asuras. And Prabhupada said, they're not big asuras because it's Kali Yuga. There are no big asuras. Everything in Kali Yuga is small. So the bigness is relative, but a big asura, he terrorizes the whole universe. We might terrorize a part of the world. Some serial killer may go into a mall and shoot 10 people. And these are, someone may get hold of government by hook or by crook and pass resolutions that pass laws for their own benefit, and people suffer, but nothing in the league of Hiranyakashipu, not even close. So Prabhupada said, no, not big demons, small time. So this text 27, yoso labdha varo mato na vajjo mama shishtibihi tapo yoga balonad daha samasta nigaman ahan. The demon, Hiranyakashipu, received from me the benediction that he would not be killed by any living being within my creation. With this assurance, and with strength derived from austerities and mystic power, he became excessively proud and transgressed all the Vedic injunctions. On that happy note, we shall end class, right? It's now time to Kantar Yapa. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. That's how you Kantar Japa in South America. Right? Gaurapriya. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.